I'm not going to lie to you guys, we live in insane times in the United States of America. We live in an absolutely mad country, post the Black Lives Matter riots of 2020, post the death of George Floyd, because essentially, in the name of criminal justice reform, in the name of addressing the harsh criminal justice system that is oppressive to minorities, we've de facto legalized a bunch of crimes through reduction of penalties, and I don't think people quite understand the breadth and the broadness of the policies introduced by the American left wing. And today we're going to revisit a topic that we've talked about before, which is, of course, the Kia Boys. In fact, somebody featured in that very famous Kia Boy documentary, so you guys can understand how they're still not introducing consequences, despite the fact that many people have been made aware of not only this phenomena in Milwaukee, but nationwide, but made aware of these specific kids in that they committed crimes on video, and they're still getting slaps on the wrist. But before we get into that, this video is sponsored, so let me toss it to the sponsor, then I'll bring it back over here, and we'll talk about it on the other side. The US debt spike could lead to a long-term rally for gold. Since March of 2020, we've added $8 trillion to our debt. Combine that with the Federal Reserve interest rate hikes, and now our debt service payments surpassed over $1 trillion. And over that same period of time, gold is up 50%. Now we're starting to see oil-rich countries like Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and BRICS come together on deals to possibly toss the United States petrodollar, and this could wreak disaster not only for you, but for your portfolio. This is one of the reasons why I'm happy to be partnering with National Gold Group. You can contact them and talk about diversifying your portfolio in order to hedge against the potential crisis. You can call them at 866-826-2603, talk to an American-based customer service representative, and go over your options. Again, that's 866-826-2603, and mention Actual Justice Warriors so that they know that I sent you. There is always a risk whenever you're investing, and past performance is not a guarantee of future results.
An 18-year-old known as one of the Kia Boys was recently released from a year-long jail sentence after stealing a car. He was shown driving recklessly in a YouTube documentary about the Kia Boys back in May of 2022. But now, Markel Hughes is back in jail tonight. 2 months after he was released, he was again charged for allegedly stealing another Kia.
So first of all, the way that the local news introduces this is wrong, inaccurate, not even close. Thanks for playing. I think you overplayed your hand on the consequences that Mr. Hughes actually faced. So to be clear, this is the person behind the wheel of this red vehicle during the course of that very famous Kia Boys documentary. He was driving like a maniac. He ended up popping up on the lawn of the house, a danger to many other people. If you watch that documentary, we actually played clips of it on this channel, and the attitudes of these individuals was absolute madness because they were embracing the fact that they could potentially die in order to have fun.
What do you think should happen to the driver?
Yeah, you should have got out the way.
If the car hit me, it would have been my fault.
Hell yeah, you should have ran when you seen that mother.
When the Kia Boys come through, get up out the way.
Now I know some of you out there are saying, listen, Sean, they're only stealing the Kias and driving them like maniacs for fun and entertainment because they're trying to feed their starving family. But I assure you, these crimes for no monetary gain aren't due to the fact that they're in poverty, and if we go out and we arrest poverty, if we find out what poverty is wearing, send out a description to the officers, that will not solve these problems. Also, for those of you who are left-wing mayors who are thinking about suing Kia, I will point out that yes, there's a manufacturing glitch. Yes, the owners of Kia definitely have a case to make against the company. Yes, insurance companies also have a case against the manufacturer. But to be clear, these cars are almost exclusively being stolen at the rate they're being stolen in the United States of America, despite the fact that Kias are available in other nations. It's due to the population that is entertained by this, that is pro-criminal, that has the criminal mindset, that we're seeing such dramatic increases in theft. It's not all on Kia, it's on the people behind the wheel of the cars.
Markel Hughes was shot the night of August 22nd. He was in the hospital getting treatment when police detectives realized the SUV he had been driving was stolen. A criminal complaint said the 2019 Kia Sportage was ditched in a front yard, hit with bullets. and the steering column was damaged, an indication it had been stolen and started without a key.
So Marquez Hughes in this incident was shot on August 22nd. I believe that is the birthday of a very special YouTuber. Not saying anything, just saying. And this is because he got into some kind of altercation after stealing an SUV, because unsurprisingly, these criminals are involved in multiple different aspects of criminality. On top of that, most of the Kia boys, according to these guys in their own interview in the documentary, carry firearms, so these are in fact dangerous people.
What percentage of Kia boys stay strapped when they ride around town?
I ain't gonna lie, at least 60%, 60-70% always got guns.
Most of them are under the age of 18, although Hughes finally turned 18 and he's still committing these crimes, so maybe we'll see some consequences for him now that he's an adult. So yeah, this is an incredibly dangerous situation, not just because of the fact that they are driving these cars like crazy. And by the way, the Milwaukee Police Department actually incentivizes them to drive poorly because they disengage the pursuit if you're driving too wildly, as mentioned in that Kia Boys documentary.
Have you ever gotten into a police chase before?
They can't chase, cause they can, but like after you doing so much dangerous, they gotta terminate it.
Also, again, for those of you who believe that these criminals are just Aladdin, they're only doing this to put food on the table for their starving family, they're quite literally stating that they're fully aware of the policy, of the consequences, and that goes into the thought process when they decide to commit these crimes. So they're engaged, they're aware of the situation, they're aware of the changes in the laws, and that is impacting their behavior for everybody who doesn't believe that laws and the criminal justice system can impact your behavior. They spell it out for you right then and there.
You only gonna do like 3 weeks shit, it's a misdemeanor.
You only do 3 weeks for stealing a car?
Hell yeah, it's a misdemeanor.
So is there really no punishment for this?
Hell no.
Now, while they are aware of the laws, while they are aware of the lack of consequences, while they are aware of the glitch in the Kia vehicles that allows them to be stolen so easily, apparently they are also incredibly stupid, because his defense was he was only driving the car, he wasn't the one who was stealing it.
Hughes told police that night someone else stole the car, that he was only driving it when 3 people opened fire and shot him.
Even though operating a stolen motor vehicle is in fact a crime, and obviously because of the way they steal these cars where they rip off the key ignition, he was fully aware that this was a stolen car. On top of that, he quite famously is one of the Kia boys who knows exactly how to steal these vehicles. So the idea that he wouldn't know that he was in a stolen car is absurd and ridiculous, and yet that was the story that he went through. And by the way, the police initially just took him to the hospital like there was no problem because he had bullet wounds in him. They didn't arrest him until they analyzed the car and realized it was stolen. I don't know why they didn't suspect this right away. If I see a young man who is under the age of 18 behind the wheel of a Kia, I'm going to probably assume, especially if there's bullet holes in it, especially if he has a record for stealing, especially if there are other factors that would indicate that this is a part of a pattern. Again, Milwaukee saw 10,000 cars stolen, 1 out of every 58 vehicles in the city of Milwaukee stolen in a single year, that this guy was a car thief from the jump.
He was arrested. Hughes, now 18, was behind the wheel of a red car in the Kia Boys documentary that went viral in Milwaukee in the spring of 2022. When Hughes was arrested that June and charged with stealing 2 cars, the video was the main piece of evidence played at his trial.
Not gonna lie, I have to laugh at this stupid kid who wanted a little bit of fame, a little bit of notoriety, wanted to be in the Kia Boys documentary, and then they used the Kia Boys documentary in order to secure a conviction against him. Again, these people are aware of the fact that there are little to no consequences for their repeated criminality. They are aware of the fact that there is a Kia glitch, but apparently they still have poor decision-making skills, which, spoiler alert, is one of the reasons why they're stealing cars in the first place. If you have a long-term thought process, you're not doing this. This is what people don't understand about criminal types versus people who are actually in bad predicaments. Typically, honorable people who find themselves in bad predicaments will still strive to do the right thing and will be more likely to condemn criminals, not less likely. However, if you only have a short-term thought process, if you're only looking for instant gratification, if you're only looking for fun, if you don't care about the long-term consequences as they impact your life, you result to crime. I mean, think about it. Even a bank robber, they get like $20,000 per robbery on average if they decide to rob a bank. that is not enough money to change your life. That is a little bit of income. Sure, it's better than earning it over the course of a year, maybe in your opinion, but this does not ever lead to long-term prosperity. If you ever wanted to know why somebody gets caught on their 9th bank robbery, why they didn't start at 8, it's because the same thing that makes them think it's a good idea to go rob banks is the very same reason why they can't do anything long-term productive with that money, and they end up broke shortly thereafter. This is what we're experiencing with this guy. He's aware of the consequences. He knows that he can get away with it. However, he keeps doing it to the point where eventually it's going to create dramatic legal problems for him.
The issue the state also has is the number of incidents in a short period of time.
Prosecutors said at the time that in addition to those 2 cases, Hughes's fingerprints were also found inside or outside 6 other stolen cars in the last year.
He just was in a messed up predicament, wrong time and wrong place. And I'm glad that he's coming home.
So this is Hughes' older brother. I'm assuming different father because different last name. But let us all be done a favor. Let's get this guy off the screen. He just said his brother was in a bad predicament after they arrested him for the stolen car from the Kia Boys documentary. And then they said that his fingerprints were on and inside 6 other vehicles that were all reported stolen, Kias and Hyundais. And this also had nothing to do with the Grand Theft Auto where somebody was firing bullets at him. But the older brother is saying that he was in a bad predicament. He was in a bad predicament according to those reports. 8 different times. 8 different times he happened to be in a bad predicament with the stolen car. Wow, isn't Hughes such a sad sack sorry victim? Isn't this the most depressing thing in the world? He just happened to stumble into 8 different situations where he needed to commit Grand Theft Auto just for the fun of it, drive like a maniac for entertainment.
He just was in a messed up predicament, wrong time and wrong place. And I'm glad that he's coming home.
No, absolutely not. Not even close. You're not selling that to me. The idea that it's just happenstance and he's an innocent angel, when we quite literally have an interview of him in the Kia Boys documentary, reveling in the fame, reveling in the idea that it would be your fault if you ended up being killed by this individual. It's absurd. It's insane. And we're not going to tolerate it. We're not going to accept it. We're not going to pretend like this is a rational thing to say. I don't give a damn that you're his brother. Obviously, he did not stumble in to 8 different Grand Theft Autos. And by the way, these are the 8 that we caught him for. These are the 8 that the police know about, that they can physically tie him to. These people commit hundreds upon hundreds of Grand Theft Autos.
That day, his older brother told us Markel had changed his ways.
Yeah, he definitely regrets it all because it made a hassle on our family and so much to come down here.
He regrets it all. Oh, it made such a hassle on our family. Oh, Josh. God, oh my God. I didn't realize he was so redeemed. I didn't realize that he had set the record straight and he had changed his ways. I mean, this was a plea deal before the case that we're talking about. He committed Grand Theft Auto again. He committed more crimes after getting out. But wow, oh golly, he regrets it. He was like, you know, I gotta change my ways. I gotta straighten up and fly right. Even though I found myself in 8 different ties to stolen vehicles. Trust me, I had nothing to do with anything.
And Hughes' attorney asked the judge to give the teen a second chance.
The defense understands that, and that's why Mr. Hughes pled guilty. He accepted responsibility for it.
On June 21st, Markel Hughes was sentenced to the 368 days he had already spent in jail, and he was released on 3 years of extended supervision.
So that's absolutely crucial right there. In the beginning, they said that he was sentenced to a year in jail. That's not true. What ended up happening was the day he was found guilty, he got time served and he was released. Now, was he awaiting trial for a year? Absolutely. But this was due to the overwhelming public pressure they had because he was flaunting his crimes in that Kia Boys documentary. This wasn't due to the fact that Milwaukee straightened out their Grand Theft Auto policies, because when push came to shove, they gave him time served. If they would have actually done the trial in a faster manner, guess what? He would have got time served. Then they let him out on probation, and wouldn't you know it, the guy who said he committed well over 200 car thefts in a documentary and was bragging about it, stole another car.
But 2 months later, Hughes was arrested and charged again.
It took him 2 months. All that talk about how he regretted it, all that talk about how he just stumbled into Grand Theft Auto situations, it was happenstance, and it was harsh for his family, and he just needed another opportunity. 2 months later, 60 days, he's done it again and got caught again. Remember, he was likely doing it more often than was recorded, than was captured by the police, because when they arrested him initially and took his fingerprints, they were able to tie him to 6 other Grand Theft Autos, 6 other stolen cars. This is who Hughes is. This is what he does. And until we actually give consequences, make an example of these people, guess what? More and more kids are going to do it. We just did a case out of Vegas where the kids ended up hitting and killing a retired police officer. It turns out they hit another cyclist on their way, and when they were arrested, the driver who murdered somebody deliberately on video said, guess what? I'm going to be out in 30 days. He expected a slap on the wrist because the message has been sent across the country that this is acceptable behavior. And guess what? This particular story is no different. I don't expect him to face any serious consequences for this, despite the fact that his charges are finally, and I mean finally, felony charges.
The most recent car theft count is a felony, so Markel Hughes could spend 10 years behind bars if he's found guilty.
Yeah, don't hold your breath. Don't expect any consequences. Don't expect him to actually serve time. And don't expect the city of Milwaukee to straighten out their act when it comes to these Kia boys, because we've had horrible incident after horrible incident, and they still have not changed their ways. They're still going soft on crime. They're still backing the criminal. They're still saying your divine right to steal a car supersedes the low-income people who buy Kias who have their lives ruined by these car thieves. But hey, those are just my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you like the video, show them while leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on my social medias, support me via the support links in the description of this vehicle. This has been me talking about the Kia boys continuing to reoffend. Till next time.